Question Lane. Solving problems through the process of questions and answers.
Another thing that I noticed in the book was how you would be called into meetings and accused of certain infractions, but then when you challenge the infractions and the validity of their report, there would be immediate withdrawal of the complaint and the suspension that was levied upon your employment at Con Edison. How frequent was these type of incidents, not only with yourself, but also with other coworkers?
Well, I couldn't speak on what happened with other coworkers because I didn't really know, like, the situations that happened with every other employee. If something happened, the other employee would have the right to keep that stuff personal, and they wouldn't come out and talk about it. But I do know that it happened to me once, and then they attempted to do it again, and I didn't allow it to happen, where they wanted to withdraw the grievance if I agreed to their terms. You know, because at first I didn't really know what they were doing, and I was under the guidance of union representation at that time that really didn't understand my plight or concern. They were just, going through the motions. Their shift that day was from 7 to 3, and they happened to be on, and I needed a shop steward to go in with me. And even though that shop steward didn't know my work, didn't understand what my job was to do as a new hiree, and it was from a completely different department, the fact that they were a shop steward in that department, that was reason enough for them to allow that person to come in and quote-unquote represent me. So they didn't really have any stake in what I was trying to accomplish. They was just like, okay, well, accept what they're telling you. It's not a bad thing, and I accepted it. But after I accepted it and I saw what they were trying to do and do the same thing, overcharge you and then tell you, well, we'll reduce it if you agree to not challenge it, I knew that they were trying to stack charges on me so that when they put it in front of an arbitrator, the arbitrator would really have the impression that I was a bad employee.
It sounds like an employment version of a plea deal.
Yeah. Where you're admitting to something that you really are not guilty of, but you just want to reduce what they're throwing at you, and you don't feel like you have enough defense on your side to get through or to fight it and win. Especially when you have a shop steward saying, I wouldn't challenge it. It seems like it's okay. Accept it. And these are your representatives telling you that. Basically, your lawyer. Your shop steward is basically like a lawyer.
Did you ever receive any of these notifications in writing as it relates to when they said the meeting is going to be on X date? If you don't challenge this, you will be levied with this penalty. Did you ever receive any of that in writing, or was it just a verbal communication between you, management, and your shop steward representative?
They usually said that I would get word from the shop steward that it was verbal. It was a verbal thing. They didn't give me anything,
That's definitely a suggestion I would give to the audience. Anytime you have any situation with management as it relates to issues where they're questioning your performance, I would get everything in writing. If they say that they accuse you of something, you have a meeting about it, and it could be marks on your record, but then they withdraw that once you challenge it and present evidence, I would like to get the retraction of accusations in writing so that everybody knows what's going on for the records. Because anytime it's verbal, it seems to create a lot of issues. And even if you have a representative, they might not be on your side like it was in Charles Ford's case. The job as a CFR became dangerous. In the early and mid-90s, the crack era was still in full effect. That was a statement from your book. What type of people generally was assigned to buildings that were known for drug dealing?
What type of people were assigned to buildings that were known? I'm trying to understand your question. What do you mean by what type of people?
Well, I'm asking was it like people that were senior? Was it a mix of people that were just starting on a job? Was it people who were on a probationary period? Was it a mix of people? That's basically what I'm trying to get at.
No, I mean, it was whoever had the route that day within the parameters of that neighborhood or that area. And in my situation, it was Harlem. And we worked a 21-day cycle from 110th Street, 110th Street, all the way up to the Polo Grounds. And you would have each meter reader had a set of 21 routes that they did from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. And whatever building was on your route, you had to do it. You know, it just depends on the person. If you called in sick on a Wednesday, then they would give your route to someone else, you know, someone who was available to do it. It wasn't like they said this person has to do this route. I was just curious to see if there was any type of routing of someone's job to be able to read the meters in like dangerous sections of town, or I just wanted to make sure that I understood. Want to make sure I understood what you meant when you wrote that phrase. But the poor man's copyright, what is that, and how did you learn about that concept? Well, I learned about that when I was a teenager, and I made my foray into songwriting. And once I learned the importance of protecting what you create, one of the things that I learned about was copyrighting it with the Library of Congress. But during the interim, when you immediately create something and you want a fast way to protect yourself, and you didn't have the money necessarily at that point to copyright it or register it with the Library of Congress, then you do what's called the poor man's copyright, where you put what you created on paper, you write it down, and then you mail it to yourself. You put a stamp, you get a on it, and you mail it to yourself on the envelope. You mail it to yourself, and when it comes back to you, you don't open it. You leave it closed until there's some kind of infraction or someone tries to infringe upon what you created, and then you pull that envelope, that unopened envelope out that has the contents of your creation, and that would be your evidence as to what date you created it. And I learned that early on. What motivated you to create a new catchphrase, or I guess corporate identity? I'm thinking of a word here. Basically, what made you think about presenting an idea to the company for consideration? Well, because I have a creative mind, and I'm always, just thinking of things. If I'm not coming up with a melody or some kind of lyric to write, my mind is just always in a creative mode. And when I used to hear the tagline that the company was using in media, I just challenged myself to see if I could come up with something better than that. It's just my creative mind.
Okay. One of the lines in your book was some of the veteran operators were very hostile and would hold back information. How was information withheld from you, and what effect do you think that played on you making errors on a job?
Well, it didn't affect me where I would make an error, because the only time you can make an error is after you get the title. They were keeping me from even getting that title, where I could make an error. And, one of the ways that they would withhold information is, like, you would ask them a question, like, what is this particular fuse thing that's on the MIMIC panel here? And they would tell you that it was something other than what it is. And then you would go around thinking that that's what it was, only to learn that it wasn't. Or sometimes you would ask them a question and they say, well, you tell me. You ask them and they tell you, their answer would be, you tell me. And, where on one hand you would think, okay, that should motivate you to get out there and hustle to get the information. There's this undertone to it that just suggests that the people don't want you to know. And it's hard working with someone like that.
Do you think racism was involved as it related to the withholding of information towards you? Was it the case, or was it a combination of all, or both?
I think racism played a part as far as how the company dealt with my grievance and what happened, what it transpired, how they tried to brush it under the rug, how they tried to not acknowledge what I did bring to them, where they first denied that I was even telling the truth, and then once they knew, they still didn't own up to it. Whereas had I been a white employee, yeah, they definitely would have given me accolades and sent out a company email as they displayed their propensity to do in other situations. They didn't do that with me. So I think racism had everything to do with that. But I don't think it had anything to do with the people that I was working with, like the operators that they put me to work with. I just think those operators, they, for the most part, didn't really care to help the new guys coming in. Because at that point, it had been like a good 20 to 25 years before they had hired anybody in that department. But then there was this mass retirement thing going on in the department, and they needed people to fill those spots. And then they started hiring people. So, for the first time within 20 to 25 years, these operators are now having to deal with people who would possibly limit the amount of overtime that they would be getting. So they kind of had an attitude about that. And I think that was more their attitude and unwillingness to help the new guy, and particularly me, was because I was another hiree that they were going to have to contend with, number one. And the way the company was making me look like I was a troublemaker, they didn't take too well to me. They didn't really feel comfortable with me. They was believing the hype at that time.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay up to date for more videos by clicking the bell notification icon and following our social media. For any of the people, groups, companies, or videos that were referenced in this video, don't forget to check the description and or the pinned comment section. The question lane, solving problems through the process of questions and answers.